What's up YouTube? In this video I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top 5 garage sale holy grail finds that I'm on the lookout for. If you guys enjoy the 90s, the 80s, action figures, that kind of stuff, that's what I'm going to be getting into. So let's get stuck into the video. Okay, number 1 on my list of things that I'm on the lookout for at garage sales, op shops and online through things like Facebook Marketplace. 80s and 90s action figures. I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the golden era of the cartoon slash action figure franchise. So naturally, things like Masters of the Universe, both He-Man and She-Ra, Thundercats, the old school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff, particularly the Technodrome. If anyone's got a Technodrome out there that they want to get rid of for cheap, let me know. And Voltron. Voltron was one of my favorite cartoons when I was growing up. Yeah, so whenever I go to a garage sale, in the back of my mind, I've always got my fingers crossed. I'm like, please, please, someone have just a bucket sitting around somewhere with a whole pile of Masters of the Universe or G.I. Joe toys or something like that. Always got an eye out for that kind of stuff. Online, as many of you guys will know, when you look up the action figures and things like that on Gumtree, which is like the Australian version of Craigslist, it's always, very highly priced retail. Everyone's looking for retail. So I'm always on the lookout for a garage sale, say possibly from, older mums and dads who are cleaning, downsizing, getting rid of all of their, their adult kids' things that they've been holding on to. That's what I'm kind of on the lookout for all the time. Unfortunately, when we were younger, we moved house a bunch of times. My dad was in the Navy, and then when we were a little bit older, we moved house a couple more times, and we lost a lot of our toys. Well, pretty much all of our toys, really. We don't have much left from when we were kids. So the only thing that I've got left that I've managed to hold on to is this, which is pretty cool. It is a Voltron drinks tray. Now, the only other ones that I've seen like this have got legs that attach to the bottom and fold down. So this doesn't have the rivet holes anywhere. So this isn't one of the ones that you normally find online, which has got the cups and glasses and everything with it, and the fold down legs. This one is just a plain drinks tray. It did come with plastic cups, which have since disappeared over the last 30 odd years, but I've managed to hold on to this thing, and I think it's pretty cool. Number 2 on the list of things that I'm always on the lookout for are NBA basketball cards from the late 80s and the early 90s through to around about 94, 95, which is the period that I grew up enjoying the NBA. I still really love the NBA, but that era back then with Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Shaquille O'Neal, when he was a rookie, Alonzo Mourning, Sean Kemp, all of those really explosive, powerful, exciting players that brought the NBA to the world. I'm still a massive fan of that era. I've got, if you have a look in the background here, there's a couple of boxes and folders here that have got a whole pile of basketball cards in them. I don't have any complete sets, but I am on the lookout all the time for basketball cards. Dad actually found a folder full of basketball cards, including a few Michael Jordan cards at a garage sale a few years ago that he gave me for my birthday, which is pretty cool. So thanks, Dad. But yeah, I'm always on the lookout for NBA basketball cards. Number 3 on the list of things I'm always on the lookout for are the original Star Wars toys, memorabilia, anything to do with Star Wars from the 70s and 80s, from the first movie through to The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, as well as a few of those weird kind of like companion movies that came out, like Caravan of Courage, which a lot of people hate. There's still a whole pile of stuff that came out. I remember I had one of those books that came with a like a cassette that you put in like a Star Wars play-along thing, and the story of the book was told like an audio cassette while you were reading the book. I don't have that anymore. I wish I did, but I had that for Caravan of Courage. And yeah, so basically any of that old school Star Wars stuff whether it's, I don't really care what condition it's in or what character it is. If there's anything that I know that is vintage, original Star Wars stuff that I see at a garage sale and it's priced well, I'm going to grab it. Number 4 is comics, particularly Marvel Comics, which is becoming harder and harder these days with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe taking the Marvel stuff to the absolute next level. #1 movie franchise in the world. Now we've got babies and kids that love Marvel as much as what my brother and I did when we were growing up, which is awesome, but it makes finding stuff a little bit harder. People with money to, cash to burn, pay all sorts of stupid prices for all sorts of stupid things, which drives the prices for everything else up. But you never know. So, these are I'm talking with this list about things that, you walk into a garage sale and you find a crate of comics and it's got a whole pile of old school original Marvel stuff in there and you pick it up for $5 or something like that. That's what I'm talking about in this video. So, I realise that the market is very saturated with Marvel stuff, but I'm always on the lookout for it, as well as 2000 AD comics from the UK. Obviously almost everyone knows who Judge Dredd is. So anything to do with 2000 AD comics and Judge Dredd, even the Sylvester Stallone movie from the 90s, I'm always on the lookout for that kind of stuff. I don't have a massive comic collection by any stretch of the imagination. It's quite small. I do have something cool that I want to show you guys though. So I used to be MySpace friends with a lady named Bridget Silvestri. She was one of my first overseas internet pen pals that I had back in the early days of MySpace. And her husband, Mark Silvestri, is one of the great comic illustrators and creators in the world. He has done work on the Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine, Incredible Hulk. I think recently he's been working on Batman. I think he might be back to Marvel now, but he's got his own comic production company called Top Cow. And this was one of the first comics that he released. It's called Hunter Killer. And if you have a look across the Hunter Killer, you can see that Mark's actually signed these for me. And Bridget and Mark sent me these comics before they'd even been released. So these are pretty special to me. I'll never be getting rid of these. In fact, I'd love to be able to pick up the rest of the collection that Mark was involved with and possibly go to Comic-Con San Diego one year and get Mark to sign them all for me. And finally meet him and Bridget as well, which would be cool. And then in the background here, on top of my basketball cards, I've got a stack of 2000 AD comics that I've found over the years too. Would love to add to that. Would love to grab any cool Judge Dredd memorabilia, merchandise, whatever that I can find as well. So yeah, number 4 on the list was comics. Finally, on my personal holy grail list of items I wish to find in thrift stores, garage sales, and flea markets are records. I'm talking LPs and 7-inches. Primarily, I'm looking for 80s pop stuff, Huey Lewis and the News, that kind of stuff. I think you probably get what I'm talking about when I say 80s pop. Also, I'm into heavy metal and punk rock, so I'm always on the lookout for some old school, rare, vintage metal LPs and 7-inches, ranging from the new wave of British heavy metal in the 80s, even stuff before that, like Black Sabbath, of course, through to some more semi-obscure kind of stuff, bands like Pentagram from the States, through to your 80s thrash era with Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, and then I'm always on the lookout for some cool death metal records as well. And also, if I can find it, 70s, 80s American and UK punk rock, Black Flag, Descendants, who else would I be on the lookout for? TSOL, any of that kind of old school, particularly the American stuff. I really like American 80s punk rock and hardcore, Dead Kennedys, Even Ramones, I love the Ramones. So any of that kind of stuff, if I ever find well priced, good condition records at a garage sale or a thrift store by any of those kind of artists, I'm definitely going to grab it. Um, yeah, so all of the stuff in this list, including the records I just talked about, is all stuff that I'm looking for myself, really. I wouldn't be looking at probably reselling much of this stuff unless I manage to pick up doubles. Basketball cards, you tend to get a whole pile of doubles, so I would always try and offload them for cheap to try and keep room at a premium and some money in the pocket. But most of this stuff I'd be looking for my own nostalgic satisfaction. So, guys, that's it for my list. I'd really love for you guys to drop some comments down below. Let me know what your Holy Grail items are. I'd love to know what everyone's tastes are and what you guys are always on the lookout for when you hit up the garage sales and the thrift stores. It doesn't have to be necessarily for reselling. I'd love to hear what you're looking for to add to your own personal collection. So that's it. That's my top 5 Holy Grail items for garage sailing and thrifting. I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of the video. If you like this video, I'd love you to check out a few more in my reselling series that I'm doing with Sam. We'd love for you to subscribe and join us on our journey as we look to put some extra money in our pockets with the whole reselling thing, as well as adding some cool stuff to our own collections. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for watching the video with me today. Appreciate it. Subscribe, like, peace. Love you guys. Mwah.